post because otherwise we'll forget to do that.
Yeah, thank you. Save a few minutes and once we get going.
Yes, okay, you should be able to share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're hot.
Okay, let's do it then.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to call to order the Board of Directors meeting for WLA for May 25th, and we'll start with roll call. Nancy?
Mandy Fox.
Here.
Shannon Kelly is absent. Jason Livingston is absent. Shelby Poole.
Here.
Natalie Schoberg.
Here.
Jillian Smirtle.
Here.
And Julie O's.
Here.
All right, and we will move into mission and vision, and Julie, it looks like you're up for tonight.
The mission of WLA is to utilize leadership-based programs and strategies grounded in solid research, combined with the demonstrated success of core knowledge curriculum as a basis of a rigorous overall educational program that builds strong skills in math, reading, literature, writing, music, science, and technology. The vision of WLA is to be a school where students and graduates become exceptional leaders and are prepared to take on the academic and leadership challenges they will face in high school and beyond.
All right, thank you, Julie. And next we'll move into the approval of the meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve tonight's meeting agenda. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. And next we will approve the May 11th meeting minutes that were in your packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the May 11th meeting minutes.
All right.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve tonight's meeting, or the meeting minutes from May 11th, excuse me, not tonight. Is there any further discussion?
Question?
Yes.
I need to abstain from that since I was not here.
You can.
Okay.
It's kind of good practice, but
Okay.
you can do either one. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, and any abstentions?
Yes.
Okay, one abstention. Vote passes. Thank you. Number 4 is conflict of interest declaration. Are there any board members that have a conflict of interest to declare this evening? Okay. We will move into public comment. There are not any public comments to discuss this evening. So we'll go straight into our board and administrative reports and start with the first grade service learning presentation.
I did send out a reminder to our first grade team, but I have not seen them in the building, so we're going to have to table that until the June meeting, and maybe we'll get it on video. I'd also like to add that I think Shelby's suggestions for next year doing it, getting it out on the website is a much better idea. But I would like to finish off this year with first grade, so we'll do that and then we'll change it up.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move into the board report. I'll kind of keep it short and sweet here. First of all, I just wanted to start with a big thank you to our PTO. They do such amazing things for our school, and I know the last few years have been really hard because a lot of the typical events that they hold, they haven't been able to do so due to COVID. And so we do have 2 really exciting events coming up this week. It's a busy week, but we have our carnival tomorrow night. So I hope that some of you are able to attend that. I know you're doing a shoe drive at it, and there's a lot of exciting things going on. So I hope that a lot of parents and teachers are able to attend that. And then on Friday, it was supposed to be today, but the Apex Fun Run got rescheduled until Friday. So that is a PTO-led event too. And do you want to do a drum roll of how much money has been raised so far?
It's been amazing. I think we all got an email that it was over $45,000. The school doesn't get all of that money. I don't know what the percentage is, but it is amazing to get that much committed. We still have, I think, 2 days left of the fundraise.
Yeah.
So it's excellent.
Yeah, it's really exciting. A reminder that the WLA conference is June 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, I think. And I know I probably need to send those of you who have said you wanted to go, I didn't mean to point at you because I know you're not able to go, the Evite, or the event registration. So I'll do that after meeting. Julie, I know I sent it to you. Did you get registered? You don't know, okay.
Nancy was going to register all of them.
Oh, okay.
Kathy, I needed a list of names. We
Okay.
were gonna get together and do it.
I will make a note of that, to get you a list of
Were you
names.
taking care of the hotel reservations as well?
Yes.
Conference and hotel.
So who do we have? We have Mandy, Jolene.
I think it was Mandy, Jolene, Jason, Julie.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. And then just lastly, you probably saw the email that we did get a copy of BOA's investigation report that came in last night. And my understanding is there's may still be a few changes to it here or there. It's kind of in draft form, so we're not going to go over it in detail today, but it did suggest some additional training opportunities the board should undertake and some policies that we should review. So we will be committed to working through those things as a board and reporting out as we can to the public as well at meetings and other communications. And so look forward to having more conversations about that next month and in many meetings to come.
Do we know when the board election results are out?
Yes, and we're going to have a talk about that here coming up. Yes. Okay. With that, we'll move into financial director report. And Bridget, I see that you're on Zoom, so thanks for joining us tonight. And we will pass it over to you.
Okay, thanks for having me. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can hear you in the room, yep.
Okay, perfect. So tonight we're going to go over April financials, and also just coincide, I'm going to present the latest, the working budget that we're presenting to approve tonight. So this current fiscal year's latest revised budget is presented in these financials. So we'll skip down to the executive summary. I'll just highlight a few lines. The budget that we are approving tonight has 634 ADM, and the latest March report I had was 635. So very close to where we're at. The school's budgeted surplus in this latest revised budget shows 1,300, so just in the black. And as a reminder that the school is budgeting that, we budgeted that 36,000 in the community service fund, which was spent on the playground equipment. So that projected cumulative fund balance of both general fund and community service fund gets us to a fund balance of just short of 1.9 million, and that's what we're projecting for 27% of expenditures at fiscal year end. So a healthy fund balance. Projected days of cash on hand, 106 as of April, and that's well above the 45 days, which is what is in the minimum bond covenants. So again, April, 83% of the way through the year. Cash balance was just above 2 million, slightly down from the previous month, but not much. Your current year holdback balance is 290,000, and again, that MDE holds back 10% of state aids each year, and you receive them, the majority of them, in the following fall. So that's, we will receive those in fiscal year 23. Revenues received as compared to budget as of the end of April, 83%, so right on target to where we're at through the fiscal year. And expenditures were at 79%. And other items, just like I mentioned, the working budget column, so I'll highlight that when we get to that. So this is just another way to look at the numbers I've already presented. Shows your approved budget, the working budget, where we're at through the year. I won't go into too much detail because it's pretty much the same that it's been all year. I'll skip down to the balance sheet. I've highlighted most of these numbers in the executive summary. I will again point out that these current liabilities, this is what we accrue for, that we pay the teachers over the summer for the work that they did in the school year. So we have to accrue for that because we pay them in July and August for the work that was done through the end of June. All right, now we are on to the statement of revenues and expenses, and so this particular page shows the revenues, and I'm going to point out that this column, it's basically kind of the middle column there, that's the latest working budget that we are proposing to approve tonight. And you can see in this far right column, that's the working budget changes. So that essentially takes what the revised budget was that was approved earlier this fiscal year compared to what we're suggesting to approve tonight. So there's just, that shows you the adjustments. So this total state aids, as of the end of the month, as of the end of April, 83% we've received. So again, right on target. And then the federal revenues, those we get reimbursed for. So you might see that's a little bit under that 83%. And then essentially we just submit for reimbursement once funds are spent. So you'll see that creep up as the, in June, and then even in July, we are submitting for reimbursement as we clean up the fiscal year. And then local revenues there, some adjustments. So now we're looking at the general fund expenses. And as mentioned, so this is showing the working budget that we're showing to get approved this tonight, and then where we're at through April. And then this is the percentage of budget. So really, we clean things up so we're within budget. Things are looking really good through the end of April. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or I'll just keep moving through the financials here.
I might just, Bridget, just add, I think it might be helpful, especially to maybe newer board members, just to know that normally kind of the process goes that we approve the budget, like we'll approve next year's budget next month. And then, we make a lot of assumptions about how many students we'll have and whatever. And so normally around October timeframe, there's a budget adjustment or amendment. And then typically again, once you get kind of closer to the end of the year, so like an April, May type timeframe, you'll have another one. So this is a very common thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mandy. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So next month, you have to always have your following fiscal year approved by June 30th. So we'll approve fiscal year 23 next month because that needs to be approved by June 30th. And then we'll kind of just keep monitoring it through the fiscal year, similar to what we did this fiscal year. And it's nice to do this, have this revised budget going later in the fiscal year, because the audit, it's nice to have a clean audit in the sense of as close to budget to actual as possible. It's less questions for the auditors, and things just look a little bit cleaner. So here it shows the total for all funds. So this is just basically combining your general fund and your community service fund. And right now, that's where the bottom line for the budget is showing a deficit. But again, your general fund is in the positive. This is just in a deficit because of the community service fund. We spent that $36,000, but that has a fund balance that we're dipping into. So I just want to point that out, that this shows a negative, but your general fund is still positive. And then currently where we're at through the end of April, we're projecting $240,000 there. So things may still turn out a little bit better than what we have budgeted, but things come in, expenses come in at the end of the year. Okay, now this is the cash flow projection, and this basically highlights each month. So you can see April is highlighted, and this breaks it down. Your cash flows, inflows, the revenues, cash receipts that came in are right here. So the majority of that is state aid payments. Again, that's very normal. And then a little bit of other receipts, and then this prior year state and federal holdback. It's just, there's a negative there. That's not anything to be, it's just that there was an adjustment done by MDE that for the state aid payments. So your cash receipts that came in were about $550,000. And then your outflows, so expenses, salaries, and then any other expenses that were paid out. So then this ties back to cash balance on the balance sheet. So that's, okay, and then the contracted services. So this is one line item on that statement of revenue and expenses, but a lot of things are lumped into there, so we break out the detail. So you can see here, this overall is about 70% compared to budget, but I know that some things are still going to be coming through that we've discussed in our finance committee meeting, so. So that's the financial statements. I'll quickly just run through the supplemental report, and as a reminder, this typically ties back to that cash flow statement. So what this does is kind of shows a full circle of payments that were dispersed. So that's what this is. It's a little bit slow. There we go. $375,000 approximately. And then this next report basically just is the same thing, only it gives you a little bit more detail. So if you ever have questions on any of these, just let me know and I can pull extra detail. But this is nice because it shows you a little bit more detail on what those invoices were that were paid. Then the next report will show the cash receipts. So this again is a little bit more detail, also showing what came in, so you can see the majority of it is that state aids. And then there's that adjustment I had talked about. It was basically just a special ed adjustment that was decreased from the prior year. And then the last report is journal entry report, and that essentially is just if there's adjustments between account codes. It will always net to zero. It's just if we need to change any coding. So that is April, and if there's any questions, like I said, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Bridget. All right,
Thank you for having me.
yes. Jolene, Finance Committee report.
Sure. Finance Committee met on our regular date, Wednesday, May 11th at 4:30. It was a virtual meeting. We had a detailed directive of the finances that Bridget just went over, and again, all things are strong and within most normal limits. Discussed the revised budget and when we should propose that to the board, and we noted we need to talk about that a little bit more. Kathy reviewed the Washington County memo of understanding for foster care. It's something that we worked really hard on getting that completed so that we are foster care providers if needed. And then also presented the paraprofessional agreements. And we dismissed at 5:19. And our next meeting will be Wednesday, June 8th. Again, anticipating a virtual meeting. Are there any questions for the finance?
Can you tell me more about that foster care thing?
Kathy, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, we had a foster family here, I think it was a year ago, and the county provides busing, just to keep the kiddos here,
Yep.
their homeschool. So I think that particular family had moved to Minneapolis area or whatever. So we were reimbursed for about $35,000 with busing, but it was after the fact, and it was actually a lot of work by Amy Calendar at that time, so she worked with the county and made that happen. But now we've been proactive, so we now have in place I forgot how many years it was now, was it a 4-year contract?
I don't remember either.
So we now have that commitment for them to cover us for any foster family transportation needs for the years to come.
Got it.
So it's just nice to get all of that done ahead of time.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, I'd like to make a motion to accept the April financial statements and the May minutes for the finance committee.
I will second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to accept the May Finance Committee minutes and the April financials. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. And then, do you want to make a motion to amend the current year budget?
Okay. Make a motion to amend our current year budget to what's contained within our board packets.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to amend the current year budget.
Mandy, did we put the wording in it for the auditors?
Yes. Give me just a second, that's okay. So, I'm gonna amend the motion. So I'll make a motion to amend the current year budget for the one that's presented this evening that shows revenues of $6,893,025 and expenditures of $6,891,723.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to amend the current budget to match what's in the working budget column for this evening. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Thanks, Nancy. Okay, governance committee report. Natalie.
So we met on Thursday, May 12th. We covered a lot of the 700 policies. We first talked quickly about the conduct policy and just kind of guidelines for families, reaching out to teachers, and just general guidelines for conduct among different people involved with our school. And so Kathy is going to amend the family handbook. And I think we even talked about, maybe in a previous meeting, about making sure that families read the handbook before each school year and maybe having them sign off. I think maybe we've done that in the past, but haven't done it more recently. So just to make sure that families are aware of what's expected of them as well. And then we talked about PTO being, paid time off for teachers and just making sure that that's tracked consistently for all teachers. I think there was some confusion with some other instances in the past, so we're just going to make the employee handbook clear so that it's consistent for all teachers and easier for people who are reporting the PTO. And then we talked through policy 701, which is purchasing, procurement, and contracting. I think it was just Nancy looked through this policy for us, but we just needed to amend a lot of it or change a lot of it, so we're going to review it again before the next meeting and then kind of finalize it. And then we talked through 704, which is the fixed assets policy. We've reviewed it but found no changes, but we wanted Judith and Nancy just to look over it and make sure that it's tight for what we need it for. Then 714, which is up for second reading today, was the fund balance policy, and we found no changes for this one either. So that one is for second read with no changes tonight. And then we talked about MCA requirements. So I think it's supposed to say MDE requires us to post how we will release unofficial MCA results in the notes. But so we discussed this, and I think Shelby pulled up how her school does it with just a form from MDE that we fill out about how we will release information and how the board will be provided just grade level percentages and just kind of guidelines for that. So Kathy's going to fill out that form for our school and then post that on our website too, so families know kind of that as well and that it's posted. And then for future discussions, we will be finalizing 506 and 514 that were presented at the last meeting. That's the discipline and bullying policies. I think we were just waiting to see if any other board members had anything to bring back. And then 540, the uniform policy, we'll talk throughout our June meeting. And hopefully have those ready for second read at our big June meeting then.
Can I ask a question about the uniform policy?
Yeah.
I don't believe, but is there anything in the statement that talks about ripped or fully uniforms, ripped pants, cut-off pants?
I think there's like a general statement of like general
Good repair,
tidiness
yeah.
and like.
I'm just wondering if that needs to be identified a little bit more, because I've noticed a few of those things.
As we get towards the end of the year,
Yeah.
some of them are looking a little rough.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's still not an excuse to have it unkept.
No, I agree.
I don't know if that's something that needs to be made a statement, or if it's
Yeah.
just keep applying that.
I think there were a few little things that like, not just because we are going to add the uniform for PE into the uniform
Oh, yeah,
policy, so
yeah.
that was one piece that we're definitely going to add in, but
Yeah.
then tightening up some of those other pieces,
Okay.
like that we don't provide uniforms, but we do on occasion, switch a kid's shirt or have them
Mirror,
go on.
yeah,
So just
mirror.
making sure that it's really
Yeah.
lined up in those, so I'll make a note for the
All right.
ripped pants.
Thank
as
you.
well. And then we'll look through some 800 policies, and then probably present readings for 900s as well, as we work through our next policies. Any other questions? We have our next meeting, we moved to June 7th, Tuesday, June 7th at 9 a.m. So it'll be a little earlier on Zoom as well. Actually, we might be meeting in person. Maybe meeting in
Okay.
person.
Good, it's on site.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all on site.
And we adjourned at 5:42.
This might just be a general question, because you just brought it up, that you notice a lot of the committees will move their meetings up in the summer, just because obviously our schedule's a little bit different. So just as long as you update it on the website, and then obviously inform the board as well, that is fine. So if you want to deviate from your normal time, as long as it's properly updated and people are informed, then take advantage of that summer flexibility.
Then I'll make a motion to accept the May Governance Committee minutes and enter policy 714 into second reading.
One second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to accept the May Governance Committee minutes and enter policy 714 into second reading. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Facilities Committee report. In Jason's absence, we'll work on, Julene and Kathy and I serve on that committee, so we can update the board. It's the last page of your packet. So it's really exciting. The gym is about 75% complete. I don't know how many got an opportunity to see. There was a picture of the gym floor going in yesterday. So it's getting closer and closer. You're seeing more, blue and orange and things that look exactly, like a school versus just cement blocks. So that's been exciting process. It says all trades are working in the building with the goal of completing the first floor for temporary use in June. So I'm actually kind of hoping maybe we could have our next board meeting over there on June 22nd, but we'll see. So stay tuned for that. So we will see. So temporary certificate of occupancy scheduled for mid-June. But the real one, the permanent one, scheduled for July, because there's a few known delays. So there's some safety doors, there are non-life safety doors. The bleachers will be a little bit later, and then the stage lift. So there's some things that we're still trying to work through. We are hoping to be able to start building tours really soon. I don't know how much more you know about that, or what your plans are. Okay. Okay, so the building official and the fire marshal are going to revisit the building in a few weeks, and after the gym floor is fully installed, and then they will let us know when tours can begin. But we're getting really close, so that's exciting.
Limited tours still, where folks will be able to come in, see the gym area, but not necessarily go up through the whole building.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're focusing on, finishing the first floor first, and then moving up to the other two floors. So exciting. The next regularly scheduled facilities meeting is June 14th at 4:30 via Zoom. And again, if that does change, we'll make sure that's updated and inform the board as well. So with that, I'll make a motion to accept the May facility minutes.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept the May Facilities Committee minutes. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes.
Do we care that that meeting is when we're at the conference?
Oh, I will need to move then. You're right, that's during the WLA conference. So, okay. So I'll figure that out with Jason and get that updated as soon as we can. And let you all know. Good point, Julie. Okay. So we'll move on to item 7.1, which is the strategic plan update. So Kathy, I'll pass it to you for an update.
Thank you. I've just written down a few things for the strategic plan update. Obviously, it's a tough day for folks nationwide, and with the Robb Elementary tragedy. Number one on our strategic plan, our new strategic plan, is the safety and well-being of our learning community. Just to let the board know, we did have counselors, administrators, and teachers talking to students right away this morning. Also checking with the counselor at the end of the day, who had some students that did talk to him one-on-one, and he expects that there'll be more over the next few days. I will have to follow up with him and let him know that staff should also be welcomed to talk with him. But I think, our hearts go out, obviously, all of us. That's a very tough deal. I think some of our students, some of the older ones are going to be writing some condolence letters and notes. We'll get those mailed out probably in a couple weeks at the very end of school. As we all know, that community has their hands full right now. But safety and well-being of our learning community is number one, and today that's kind of been front center, just making sure that our kiddos are getting the support they need. Number two I have written in here is academic performance, preliminary data in general, not talking about individual students. MCA, there's been some 20% plus improvements in some grade areas in math or reading. There's been some other grade level classes that have actually dipped down, but we'll get all of that better to the board in the end of August when it's not embargoed. But I do want the board to know that we've been meeting this week in our PLCs to really look at the data in general, to see what's been put in place this year that has worked well to improve scores and what needs to happen yet. And then we'll look in about another week and a half, we'll be looking line by line at specific students. It is confidential information. But we are allowed as staff to look at that data to make decisions for improving curriculum for the coming year. And then we'll just identify some strengths and challenges and some supports that we need to get further in place next year. The only other thing I had written for strategic plan update tonight was the continued work on policies, which has come up recently, as we all know, through the March board meeting, as well as in the WLA report. There's a lot of policies that we've been working on, not just bullying and student discipline, but those two continue to be front and center. That's all I really have for an update on the strategic plan. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling. Apologies on that.
Questions on strategic plan?
Yeah.
I think it'll be worth noting too, when we do look at the MCA data, that it's compared to 2020,
Right.
19,
Right.
whatever the last normal year was, I don't even remember anymore. And I think it'll be imperative that we compare it to state trends as well, because I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's going to be discouraging to look at it and see that we have these drops, but I think that's going to be the norm statewide, just with kids being out of normal school for
Right.
a year and a half. So I think it's worth keeping that in the back of our mind as we look at that when it comes out.
It is, but also playing the devil's advocate is that, as one of our board members did point out in the previous meeting, there are other schools that also went through COVID that did not have big swings. So that has really caused myself and Kylie and some others to really look hard and close to our horizontal or vertical curriculum mapping, as well as our pacing guides, as well as what our teachers putting in front and of the kiddos on a daily basis. How is the curriculum lined up? So kind of digging deeper. But yeah, and we have been looking at those, so as we looked back over the last 3 or 4 years, we can see go down, and now we're on the way back up, but we want to continue the upward trajectory until we catch up and surpass historically where we've been.
I would just say too, like making sure that when we're looking at curriculum, I think it's important to look like they're taking the test online and the way that they take the test online versus like in person, because I just noticed that with my students with the diagnostic too, like their attention span for taking a test online is different than in class on a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
So I don't even know if there would be a way to like opt into some of the kids doing paper and just comparing that in a future year too, just because I
But
don't
not
know.
only that came up this week for our 3rd grade teachers. They're saying, we need to have those practice tests where you do 2 or 3 questions, once a week type of thing.
Yeah.
They actually need to practice them on the computer, because doing it on paper and then having that transfer, especially when you have a kiddo with a Chromebook that's trying to
With a mouse,
trying to
they
do
don't know how to
this,
do it, yeah.
or they're like, what is a mouse?
Yeah.
What is this? So that's part, whereas the older kids are pretty adept at using any kind of technology. So yeah, that's one of those other issues that impacts our tests. So we're working hard on a few things.
Anything else? Okay, let's move on to our election committee update. Natalie?
Yes, so voting is currently taking place. Voting will close on Friday at 4:30, and it'll just automatically, shut down on election runner. So as of this afternoon, we had a little over 100 votes in. So I guess the timeline going forward is once the voting closes on Friday, the election committee will go through and just validate all the votes to make sure, everybody is a parent of a student here, or a legal guardian, or a staff member. Then I or the election committee will inform you all, the board, via email who the winners of the election were. And then Mandy will kind of reach out and congratulate those people and set up an orientation for the board members before the June meeting. And then at the June meeting, we'll seat the new members at the end of the meeting. It's kind of the timeline for the next
Are we
little
doing
bit.
another blast to try to get people to vote?
Yep, there will be a reminder email going out automatically from election runner. I can't remember if it's 2 days, it might be sent out tomorrow, but I can double check exactly when that reminder would go out. So
Is
just
that text and email, or just email?
I think it's just email, but we could send out like a blast or like a school messenger
Yeah.
text as well, just to get more votes coming through. There is only, one candidate in 2 of the sections, and we didn't get any community members, but for anybody listening, we do still, have those open seats for community members and 1 parent open seat, I believe, as well, so, which are available through appointment, even though the election is currently going on too. So, I'll make a note that we want a school messenger line good too. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Unless there's any other questions.
Thanks, Natalie. Okay, so 7.3, discussion to amend calendar for no school for kindergarten students on June 3rd.
So I encourage the board to have some open discussion about this, certainly vote on this as you want, but I'm going to start, and then Ally can chime in. There were significant logistical challenges for having kindergarten graduation on Friday next week on the field out front for some various reasons. If any of you were here for kindergarten graduation last year, lots of families and a big need for parking to have that big event out there. So we decided to move it to Thursday evening, late afternoon. I think it's 4:30 or 5:30.
It's 5:30.
We'll be holding it indoors in this room as well as downstairs. But we are still going to need all that parking. The benefit, of course, was that most of the staff was left at that time, so we'll have adequate parking for grandparents and so forth. So in moving it, they really have a closure to kindergarten at the end of that day. They've done their curriculum, they've done their activities, their goodbye, their fun things. And we sent out, I encouraged them, I think you asked, and I thought it was a great idea to let parents know that tentatively, per pending board approval, we would not be having school for kindergartners on that Friday. And I guess at this point, I have not heard from any parents that were saying, I'm concerned about that, we really wanted to have our kiddo there on Friday. I don't think you've heard from any parents.
No, yeah, we started sending that out, I think, at the end of April when we just sent out the invitation for kindergarten graduation, just pending board approval. We've had some parents just confirming, like, is that still happening? Because we're just now, a board approved it or discussing it.
Right.
No
But I think
pushback.
Mandy was one, I don't put words in your mouth, but brought up, that there's families that have daycare issues or so forth, so, we're going to ask you to adjust the calendar, but obviously, you can be opposed to it. So
Yeah, sure.
What are your thoughts, though, as far as
Yeah,
other families?
I'd be open to anyone's thoughts. I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. I'm really appreciative of all of our kindergarten teachers and the effort that you put in, and I, just generally speaking, I don't like to get in the practice of adjusting the school calendar after it's put out. I know we've done it a couple of times this year, one other time this year. And I just don't like to set that precedent, I guess. So I guess I would have a few questions of, do we think this is a one-year issue? It sounds like it is. Like this wouldn't be something that we would face next year because we would have capacity indoors and parking
And indoors,
availability.
we'll have that facility.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we had discussed, like, if that's something we would think about, like, right now, if we did amend the calendar for that, like, you know, if it was something where we kept it the day before kindergarten graduation, then that wouldn't be something we decide next April, or whatever, it would be something we, I guess, administration and kindergarten team, and decide over the summer, so that if we did amend the calendar for next year, it would. But I think another logistic challenge was, like, other families with older kids as well last year getting pulled out, and the attendance issues for that too during the day.
Yeah, it did get very hectic last year because the parents were maybe here for kindergarten graduation, which ended about noon. One?
Yeah, just like an hour before school. So I
Okay,
think,
2 o'clock. And
Yeah.
then they would come into the office to pick up the rest of the group.
yeah.
And we were racing around with lots of early dismissals, lots of cars coming and going. Just got really hectic.
We had toyed with the idea of, for this year then, for Friday, doing kind of like a half-day kindergarten or something to alleviate some of that, but then that still presents the issue of people pulling out their older kids, or, you know, the field days going on, and kindergartners might want to come just for that, but then you still have traffic coming in. So we kind of did weigh all the different options, and ultimately, like, we are finishing our curriculum, so we would be filling a full day with, like, daycare, basically, for the families, which we can discuss as well. I mean, I've done it, can do it. But yeah, we also might have some families who, or students who are being retained or aren't moving on to first grade. So they might come back then, having their other peers have graduated, if that makes sense. So there's just a lot of moving pieces with it as well. So I just want to make sure everybody kind of had that info as well.
Sure.
Is kindergarten part of field day tentatively, or they don't
Yes.
participate?
Yes, yeah, they
So
are
they would-
practicing those activities
There
right
now.
now.
So they would miss their field day.
They would miss their field day. So I love that you're having graduation at night. I think that makes so much more sense than during the day, for all of those reasons you just stated. And I would hope that you would continue that practice. I'm not for having the day off. I think it sets a precedence for other programs who might have programming for a night concert or something, and then they get the next day off. So I don't feel like it sets a good precedence there. And I understand how the work is, I've done it too. But I just feel like your curriculum is done, that's fine. There's still plenty that can be done because they're moving on to first grade. And perhaps it could be treated as a first grade orientation day or something like that. Or even just, you know, kids appreciate a fun day. And for reasons of, you know, parents needing daycare, and, you know, their other kids are still in school. So I think it just makes more sense to have school for kindergarten that day than it would be to not have it.
And you don't have to worry about hurting my feelings
Yeah,
at all.
no.
Like, I honestly, I'm gonna be doing whatever we all
Yeah.
decide, obviously, as a kindergarten teacher right now. I just also want to think through families who might have already set up daycare because we
Yeah.
did communicate it both ways, which maybe we just, you know, make our decision and then either way, and
Yeah.
parents just have to deal with it either way, because that's,
Well,
right, if that makes
It's
sense.
still plenty of notice, so if there were deposits that were made, those could be refunded. I mean, I don't think it's, yes, it's a little bit more of a hassle, but I think that it's still worth it to have our students here at WLA for that last day.
But I'll add in that, though I'm making a case for kindergarten, I'm with Ed and Natalie, it can go either way. So it really is, each of you really needs to think about how you feel about it.
So any more thoughts, or you guys want to?
What will the kindergarten teachers and any staff be doing in lieu of normal teaching?
Yeah, what were you
We had
gonna-
just talked about doing kind of like being part of the greeting, and we would be like happy to be a part of any of the other celebrations. We haven't formally been told things that we would need to do, but we would definitely be on site taking care of things.
With field day's about an hour long with each other age group. So they'd be out there helping with that.
We didn't see it, I guess, as a kindergarten team as like a day off for us by any means.
And that's a full day or a half?
Full day.
Why don't you go ahead and make a motion?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Let's
And
take a
we'll
vote.
just vote and-
So where we're at.
Okay, so we'll just make a motion to amend the calendar, current year calendar for 6/3/22 to have no school for kindergarten students.
Yep. All right, is there a second? Okay, so I think that's your answer. Okay. Thanks, Natalie. Okay. So we'll move on to item 8, board communication, future agenda items, and reflection. We've mentioned that we'll likely have a pretty full agenda for June. We have some things we're trying to, the budget for next year. We've got some agreements that we'll need to ratify. We'll have the investigation to dig into more. I know governance committee is working through a lot of things that we'll discuss. So, but are there any other items that you'd like to see on the agenda, or any reflection that you want to share?
Investigations, the BOA?
Yeah.
When do we decide new treasurer?
Oh, that's a good point.
July?
Yes. So at the very end of the June meeting, kind of our practice is that when we bring on brand new board members, we try not to make them kind of vote on anything substantial like that meeting. So they'll come on at the very end of our June meeting. So really July meeting will be the first meeting of the new fiscal year. So another thing that we'll be working on next month will be figuring out our calendar. We don't have a board calendar we traditionally have met the fourth Wednesday of every month, so we'll likely continue to do that, but we'll also have new board members to consider their schedules and things. So between now and next board meeting, take a look at your calendar, see if you think, fourth Wednesdays of the month will continue to be a good time for a board meeting, or if you would suggest something different. And then at the first meeting in July, we will then, as a board, vote on who will be the board chair for the next fiscal year, the treasurer for the next fiscal year, and the secretary for the next fiscal year. So be thinking about that as well. Okay. With that, I guess I'll announce that the next regularly scheduled board directors meeting will be Wednesday, June 22nd at 5:30 p.m. At this address. I don't know for sure if it'll be in this room, but I'll let you guys know. And then we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion?
All right, there's been a motion and a second to adjourn. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Thank you all.
I asked about the voting was, at class,